pushes her away in a huff and says, money don't matter tonight. Money don't matter tonight. It sure didn't matter yesterday. Just when you think you got more than enough, it's when it all up and flies away.
Welcome to Wealth Building Wednesdays, where we center Black, women, and BIPOC-owned businesses, highlight opportunities and initiatives for underrepresented entrepreneurs, and center socially innovative enterprises, building generational prosperity, fostering real networking, and recycling Black dollars. It's Wealth Building Wednesdays on KBLA Talk 1580.
It is, and it's Wealth Building Wednesday. We had to bring you in with some Prince because it's his B-Day. Speaking of Prince and vintage throwback beauty, our Wealth Building Wednesday spotlight is just right in alignment with that. The business is called Zoe's Vintique. It started 10 years ago, coming out of a passion about fashion, vintage fashion to be exact. Zoe Guillory is our guest. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
Oh, thank you. Love spotlighting small business, women-owned businesses, BIPOC businesses. And a lot of times we hear about folks starting on this journey of entrepreneurship based on a side hustle, a passion, something people are in the family or their friends are always asking them to do. Girl, help me put this outfit together. Girl, can you bake one of those cakes that you always make? Can you do my hair? And then it evolves into a full-blown company. Sounds like that was a little bit your story because you say you've been passionate about vintage fashion since you were a little kid playing in your mama and grandmama's clothes.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Growing up, I was actually raised by my great-grandparents in the South. So I used to always play in my grandmother's church clothes and different things and going to the garage sales with her. And I used to always tell her that one day I'm going to have my own business doing this, Grandma. And here I am it's actually now almost 13 years of me being in business with the actual brick and mortar.
That's wild. You told your grandmother, this is what I'm getting ready to do with my life?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did Grandma say?
She said, baby, whatever it is, if this is what you say you're going to do, I believe you're going to do it one day.
I think that's the right answer. We need to all copy your grandmama when our kids come to us, unless it's like, I'm going to join a drug cartel, right?
Yeah.
So, tell me about that jump, though. I know you started selling clothes from your home. Is that right? Like trunk sale kind of thing?
When I left corporate America, I decided to take a leap of faith on myself. I had started collecting vintage clothing, and my friends were like, okay, what are you going to do with all these clothing? And I knew the company I was working for was being bought out. I already knew what was going to happen in corporate America. I said, you know what? I'm going to quit, and I'm going to take a chance with myself, trusting in God was going to give me the great idea. And I went along. I started selling from my house, and then I started doing flea markets. Started doing flea markets, and then 12 and a half years ago, God blessed me with a storefront in the West Adams community. I was in the West Adams community for 6 years. I was forced to leave that first location due to the gentrification that's happening in the urban community. I was a little devastated because I was kind of like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to go back into the house? What is the next step? But God had something bigger planned for me. He said, just sit still and watch what I do. God blessed me with another storefront. I'm still in the same community. I'm now located on Redondo and Pico Boulevard. I've been there now almost 7 years. I made it through COVID with the grace of God. I decided to paint my store pink. And once I painted the store pink during COVID, the business has just even elevated even more.
That's hilarious. You just had this idea, I'm going pink, and it worked for you.
Yes, ma'am. It totally worked for me. And when I tell you I have met so many phenomenal people, just doing something that I love. To me, it's not a business anymore. It's more of, you know what, this is my livelihood. And when I say it's not a business anymore, these people that come through my door, they're not just customers. They're more like family now. Whenever they have something going on, they're reaching out. I have customers who's like, I want that Zoe vintage experience. I give you an experience, so I love what I do. I love people. I'm a people person, and I'm also a consumer. So I know how I want to be treated when I go in some place, and that's how I try to treat my customers. And when I tell you,
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. And when I tell you that I have had so many people that have just reached out to me on Thanksgiving, I'm also a true believer that God blesses us to be able to bless others. For the last 12 years, I've been feeding the homeless every Thanksgiving.
Nice.
And I got the community involved. Yes, ma'am.
Reminds me of Dr. Mabel John. May she rest in peace. So Zoe Guillory, actually I wasn't familiar with the word vintique. It's like a vintage boutique, or that's a thing.
Ma'am.
Learned a new word today. All right.
So why I created that is because I love vintage and I love modern, unique pieces. So instead of calling it a boutique, I called it a vintique. Now, here at my new store, I actually have a two-store. So I have an upstairs that is completely nothing but vintage clothing. My downstairs, I give you an opportunity if you want some unique, one-of-a-kind new pieces, local designers that I also carry, and just unique pieces that I personally curated myself.
Nice. Well, I'm going to have to stop by. I haven't been to your store. It's 1410 South Redondo Boulevard. You said by Pico, 1410 South Redondo. Are you also selling online?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure am.
Okay. What's the address?
The www.zoesvintique.com.
And Vintique is VINTIQUE, zoesvintique.com. Vintage is kind of really the rage right now, though. A lot of people talk about going thrifting, and people are trying to find that throwback item. But it sounds like that's been a lifelong thing for you. What is it about the vintage stuff that's so magical?
What's so magical about vintage pieces? Every piece has a story. You got to think about when you look at the young people now, they want to rock 80s and 90s. They want to feel like, okay, I can look like Aaliyah, or I can go and look like Britney Spears. When we were younger, when I was in the 90s, of course I was rocking the big pants and the crop top, but I also wanted, a nice designer piece if I could get it at a great price. So, and then you got to think about when you're going into the 50s and 60s, you want a great mod moment or a great A-line dress. Then 70s, you want the bell bottoms, 80s, So I've always been one of those young ladies, and I am a curvy woman, so I also like to find pieces that will complement my body, because as an African American, if your grandparents didn't make your clothes, if you were a curvier woman back in the 40s and 50s, you would not find those pieces. They didn't actually start making pieces for curvy women until like the 60s and 70s.
Wow. That's wild.
Yes.
Well, I congratulate you, Zoe Guillory, for letting go and letting God, and for painting your place pink, and for having such a successful and fun business right there at Pico and Redondo in the city of Los Angeles. What do you want to leave us with this morning? Sure has been a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. What I want to leave you with is, despite of what your past may look like, does not mean it has to be your future. Whatever it is that you put your heart and mind to, you trust in God and trust in yourself, and sky's the limit. Things don't happen right away, but God will make it happen right on time.
Absolutely. Zoe'sVintique.com, Zoe'sVintique.com, or visit her. You know you're going to go shopping this weekend. 1410 South Redondo Boulevard, LA, California. I'm Dominique DiPrima. It's a great time to call me, 800-920-1580. When, oh, when is the 45th president going to jail or at least being indicted? We may have some conversation about that, and there's a lot more to talk about. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Right now, let's talk about it. 800-920-1580. I am very excited, more than I thought I would be, about Tupac receiving his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'll be there. Hope you'll join me. I'm also a big follower of Prince, love his music, and hey, fellow Gemini, so boom. I'm happy that he is, getting some recognition, some long overdue recognition. A lot going on. Mike Pence has now formally entered the 2024 race. He wants to be the Republican nominee for president. To me, it seems very delusional, but, keep hope alive, I guess. Believe in yourself. Let go and let God. I don't see it happening. But, when people decide to run for president, it defies logic most of the time. Mike Pence is expected to jump in. He's filed his paperwork. Chris Christie has already jumped in, and former governor of New Jersey. Apparently, his campaign strategy is talk more smack about Trump than anybody else. So, at least it will make an interesting, campaign. There's like 300 people running for Republican presidential nominee, Chris Christie and Nikki Haley and Larry Elder, which I love that the national news media is just ignoring Elder like he's not even in the race, but he is. And they have to get 1% of the vote to be included in the debate. So it'll be interesting. Will Cornel West be able to get 1%? I don't know. I doubt it. I really, really do. But maybe he can. Yeah, I would. That's one thing I would love. I honestly probably wouldn't vote for him just because he's not going to win, and I don't want to waste my vote. But I would love to hear him debate all those other folks, the Mike Pences and Chris Christie's of the world. That is something I would love to see. But of course, he's not running for Republican, so we'd have to make it through. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. In fact, I don't even know how that works because he's not running as a Republican or a Democrat. So who does he debate, himself? I'm not sure how that works. But in the media, the fur will be flying. So that will be interesting. He's running in the People's Party. And I'm not sure how that works. I think it's different state to state. The Green Party candidates never seem to get on the debate. And I think it varies from state to state if they're on the ballot or if they're included in those debates, because most of the debates, they're sponsored by the party, right? The Republican National Committee or the Democratic National Committee. So I doubt the People's Party gets a seat on any of the networks, even if they do choose to run, and then if they get that 1%, I don't know. So the former vice president will announce today, apparently in Des Moines, and go on his futile quest to be president of the United States. I'd like to focus on what's good. I've been talking a lot about Tupac and his star because to me that's a positive thing. Started on this. We've heard a lot about the return of African art and artifacts that have been stolen, which are all over the world in European museums and private collections. And this is plundered art. Many times it's the spoils of war or colonization. And there has been a movement. It kind of hit the popular culture mentality with Black Panther when Killmonger says, where did you get that? And he challenges the woman in the scene in the museum, classic scene, about, the stealing of African art. That has already been a conversation that was going on long before that film, but I think that film brought it up to, at least to the internet consciousness. Well, now, one of the places that is very easy to trace the thievery of the art is Benin City, Nigeria. I actually traveled there in 2019. It was the last trip we took with the African Focus Trailblazer tours, which are returning in a couple of weeks. And I went to the museum there in Benin City, and I saw the artwork. Just stunning, incredible. Well, we know that the British fought with, I think it was King Eowade I. This was in 1897, and completely plundered Benin City. Which was at the time kind of the center of ancient Africa. And they stole everything. And these are big bronze heads. They're just beautiful artwork. So now the British and others that have these art pieces have been making plans to return those pieces. Because of public pressure, because of now, a lot of times you could trace, right? If this is an artwork that was stolen from Benin City in 1897, you could trace the trail of ownership and how it got to that museum. And they've been talking about returning this stuff to Nigeria. And apparently, because President Muhammadu Buhari had made a move, he ended his term this week, actually. But before he left, he issued a declaration saying that all of the artifacts, all of the artwork that was returned to Nigeria by various foreign entities, and most recently the British Museum has been looking at transferring ownership. Well, President Buhari said all that art, when it comes here, it actually goes to King Eowade II, who is the current Oba. This is a ceremonial king of Benin City. And now these European institutions are trying to use that as an excuse not to return the art. What's wrong with this picture? First of all, if you're returning the art to Nigeria, Nigeria gets to do with that art as it sees fit, right? No, they only want to recognize the official government, which is the democratically elected government in Nigeria. But let's say somehow, instead of stealing so much art and gold and diamonds and treasure from all over the world, the British had actually had stuff plundered from them. And let's say Africa was returning British art, things that will never happen, to the Brits, because they had realized that, it wasn't fair to steal other people's stuff and they were going to send it back. And the British said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and give that to King Charles because it was in King Charles's possession when it was plundered. And so we're going to give it back to King Charles because he's the direct descendant of Elizabeth and Victoria and all the other ones, right? I don't think anyone would bat an eyelash. They would be, oh, of course it goes back to the royal muckies. But instead, because it's an African king, we have a problem with it. And what's so wild about this story for me is that I have met King Eowade II. When we went to Benin City, which is in the middle of nowhere, which is the center of the heart of ancient Africa, like our ancient Greece, and which is full of beautiful art. I bought one of those bronze heads from, it's a duplicate, a replica, from a vendor on the street, and it's just gorgeous. Amazing. The museum was so incredible. If you give them to Eowade II, he's going to put them in the museum in Benin City. Now, I grant you, Benin City is in the middle of nowhere, but so what? People make pilgrimages to obscure places in Europe all the time to see some treasure. The Vatican has all that artwork in the Vatican. All these European folks have art treasures. Anyway, it's interesting because they're saying now it's going to a private collection, so we don't think we can give it back. Ha! Eowade's, I don't know if it's his great or whatever. He's the direct descendant of Eowade I, who was the actual ruler when the British stole that stuff from him. Okay? Now, Eowade II, the reason I met him is because African Focus had made a petition so that the African-American travelers, there were 55 of us, mostly from South LA, would have a chance to maybe meet the king or at least go into the palace. And at the last minute, it was granted. So we actually went in, all of us, all 55 of us, went into the throne room in the palace and met the king. Gosh, it's not like you kick it with the king, but he's on his throne and you're seated in the chambers with all these noble persons and priests, and it was quite beautiful and ornate. The palace, everyone was dressed, all the priests were in white, and most people in the palace were dressed in white and their stunning coral beads, and it was a great honor. And he spoke to us as if we were the delegation representing all formerly enslaved African descendants in the diaspora, which was powerful, and just welcomed us and said, look, I want the word to get out that you are welcome here. You are Africa's children. We recognize that you are Africa's children. You are welcome here. And then he took us outside in front of the palace, all 55 of us, along with his entire court, which is a whole bunch of people, and took pictures. And apparently this is a big deal because the king only goes out in public once a year, usually for some festival. And when he had his picture taken with President Buhari, it was the end result of like a 2-year negotiation, because Buhari wanted to take a picture with King Eowade, but Eowade II wasn't really, rushing to take a picture with the president. So the fact that he felt it was important to go outside and take a picture with these children of Africa who are from South Central Los Angeles was very important and powerful symbol. We took the picture, And then after that, everywhere we went in Benin City, we were like VIPs. The king came out of the castle and took a picture with you. It was like we were bringing good fortune to the city. It's a little city. And to the town. All of this I'm just sharing with you because when I read in the New York Times that these museums are saying, well, we don't want to give back the bronzes because they're going into private hands. I know they're no more private than the hands of any royalty anywhere, which is, yeah, okay, this is spiritual royalty, so they're not taxing people in the way that, you know, the Windsors do. But it would go right into the museum at Benin City and take its rightful place alongside the other treasures of the Benin Empire. I'm Dominique DiPrima, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Michigan, Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Winstrom continues to defend his proposal to implement drones and held a community meeting on the issue last night. People continue to criticize the idea, citing worries over privacy rights and policies that criminalize black and brown people.
I'm just not sure how you can use drones at all and not violate people's privacy rights if you can see into people's backyards from like 20, 30 feet up.
Winstrom says they would only use them for mission-based events like protests and search and rescues. 17 U.S. states are issuing air quality alerts because of thick smoke from Canadian wildfires. States in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and as far away as Kentucky and Tennessee are reporting dense smoke. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. CalHope can help. Access CalHope's free and secure mental health resources. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
There's been some chatter the past few days that the Miami Heat will have Tyler Hero for Game 3 tonight in the NBA Finals. The Heat confirmed that Hero will not play tonight against the Denver Nuggets. Hero, the Heat's number 3 scorer, is still recovering from surgery to repair 2 broken bones in his right hand. He was injured in the first round in April against Milwaukee. The Heat made it to the finals without Hero. They can afford to wait a little while longer to bring him back. Game 3 tonight in Miami at 5:30 on ABC. Cincinnati gets 3 in the bottom of the 9th for a comeback win against the Dodgers. Buffalo Bills defensive back DeMar Hamlin practiced with the team on Tuesday in off-season workouts. First full practice for Hamlin since his cardiac arrest on January 2nd in a Monday night game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Everybody in the house, make some noise!
Is there a better day of the year to celebrate the anniversary of the only unapologetically progressive talk station west of the Mississippi, focused on issues that impact the black community?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
We think not. A station that amplifies black voices like yours with hosts and guests who look and sound like you. Celebrating our second anniversary on Juneteenth. We're KBLA Talk 1580. And you ain't seen nothing yet. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
The Los Angeles Public Library proudly presents the June Jubilee inaugural event commemorating Juneteenth. Join us on June 10th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Central Library as we celebrate the rich Black culture in our city. This free event will include a special opening celebration featuring African drums procession and a libation ceremony at 9 a.m. along with speakers, workshops, live entertainment, and more for the whole family. Parking is only $1 with a validation. Learn more at lapl.org/Jubilee. That is lapl.org/JUBILEE.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life and your choices with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age, but there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Yeah, and just talking about this African artwork and whether or not it would be returned or not. Another note on that, because I think this is important when we talk about reparation and the acknowledgement by these large Western powers of the thievery, plundering, and wealth draining that they have done to many of the Eastern countries in Africa. It happens in India, wherever there's colonizing going on. And then they take your money and your art and your land and your treasure and your human resources and then say, what's wrong with you guys? Why are you so underdeveloped? How come you so broke? Oh, you stole all our stuff. So and now you're going to blame us for being poor. That is the pattern with these colonizers. And that is one of the reasons why I think it is so important for them to stand up and say, we're giving you your stuff back. It's important that the stuff goes back, but it's also important that they acknowledge you stole the stuff and the ideas and the human beings. Anyway, this is serious with this, we're not going to give it back if it's going to the king instead of the government, which is ironic because it's probably safer out there in Benin City, right, as opposed to dealing with the various changing of hands of democratic governance. Who knows? You could have a Trump in there who could decide to take the things back to the Nigerian version of Mar-a-Lagos. I don't know. Anyway, last month, Cambridge University postponed a ceremony. They were supposed to give back 116 bronzes to Nigeria. Now they're like, well, we're going to pause on that because you're giving them to the king instead of the president. And I think that, there are people that, like Linda St. Thomas, who is a spokesperson for the Smithsonian, who says it's none of Cambridge University or anybody else's business what Nigeria does with their stuff when they get it back, which sounds very much like my argument about reparations. You don't get to not pay me back because you're judging what I might do with it. It's mine. If it's mine, give it back to me and let me make my wise or foolish decision on my own. That's what she said. She says it's none of the Smithsonian's business what happens to the bronzes once they go back. They gave back 29 to Nigeria's Museum Commission. And she says, look, they could give them away, they could sell them, they could display them. In other words, they can do whatever they want because they belong to them. And so now there is a negotiation going on about whether or not Nigeria gets its stuff back. I think that's really important because it's going to play out with other people, other countries, other situations about whether or not folks can get their stuff back or whether they just can stall and come up with all different kinds of reasons not to give the stuff back. CNN, the chairman of CNN, Chris Licht, is out. And this is not a big surprise. There was a devastating piece in The Atlantic about a week ago, which I read, which really outlines all the problems this guy had. And in terms of his relationship with the folks there, the anchors and the talent, but also his philosophy and the way that he was trying to right the ship, if you will. CNN has been struggling with their ratings. Those of you who listen to me all the time know that I have said for some time CNN is moving to the right. CNN is moving to the right. I didn't know the internal politics of it, but I could see it in their choices on the air. Then when they chose to air a town hall meeting with President Donald Trump, former president, even though there's been endless discussion about how the media got played by Trump in 2016, particularly CNN and MSNBC, who gave him endless free airtime, or earned media, as we like to call it, which he then used to increase his popularity and his fundraising and get himself elected president of the United States. And I feel like everyone said, okay, we're going to do better this time. We're going to do better in 2020. We're going to do better in 2024. We're not going to get played. But then, and I'm not trying to be an armchair chairwoman, whatever. But it seemed that his strategy was moving the network to the right and trying to get some of the so-called independents, who are usually really Republicans that just don't want to call themselves that, and or Republican light, over to CNN, which ain't going to happen anyway. It's probably not. And then sort of moving more towards the center in a way that would hopefully, bring back some of the Dems, the more conservative Dems. That's, I think, what his strategy was. And going back to more old-fashioned news, which that part I liked, where they have more different stories instead of just harping on one story all day with every single anchor having the same guests to talk about the same thing. That gets tiresome. Like today, we're going to be in hysterics about Mike Pence all day, and every single show is going to talk about Mike Pence, and they're all going to have the same guests talking. Yeah, no wonder people are tuning out. I also think, and this is, you're listening to talk radio, but here on KBLA Talk 1580, not only are we fact-based, but when we start to speculate, we say it. Well, I'm speculating this. We don't, just because we're opinion, we don't have any confusion about the difference between fact and opinion, right? This is an opinion-based radio station. Hopefully our news, although, we can do another show on that one day when I'm not, when I'm feeling very outspoken, extra outspoken. But hopefully our news is mostly fact-based. And then when you come to me or Tavis or Robin, then you're getting more opinion, right? Lots of opinion. And your opinion, too, because you're invited to call. 800-920-1580. To me, that's what the cable networks, if they want to get back to a more basic thing, is to have a separation, just like newspapers do. You have an opinion column, and then you have news. The editorial part, and then the news. That's not new. It's just that, when we move to a model, which I believe was really led by the Fox News movement, what you end up getting is a mishmash where the lines are blurred, right? So you have Don Lemon, who's not there anymore, and Chris Cuomo, who's not there anymore, opining on things mixed with news. Now, you notice Anderson Cooper doesn't really do that much. He'll do it a little bit. He's more of a traditional news guy. But I think the thing to do is have a actual newsroom that just gives you as close to just as fact. I don't believe in total objectivity. You can only see through your eyes. So when you say just the facts, it's going to be just the facts as you see them. But at least there's an effort to give just the facts. That's the news side. And then you have the editorial side where you can let, your Don Lemons do what they do. Opine. Stir the pot. And I think that's the way to go. But anyway, whatever it is, they're going to go a different direction again. And since Liked has come in, they've seen their ratings drop another 25%. So that's probably the bottom line. Like, no matter how much the talent hated him and no matter how many Trump town halls he did, I believe had the ratings shot up and he had, Newsmax or Fox TV, Fox News ratings, nobody would care. They'd be like, shut up and anchor. But when you have bad ratings and bad relationships, that's a perfect storm. So he's out, and that's amazing because he was supposed to be the savior of the network, and he's only been there for 13 months, which is not a long time in the life of a television network. It's really not enough time to even make much of a difference. But apparently, ratings went down. Governor Gavin Newsom is not the only person talking about suing or bringing legal action, I say, against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. There is a sheriff in Texas who says that he believes a criminal investigation that shows that there may be some exposure there for Ron DeSantis, who sent 50 asylum seekers, refugees, Venezuelans, from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts last year. This sheriff is saying that there is felony and misdemeanor unlawful restraint, and that he is urging the district attorney's office to bring criminal charges against Governor Ron DeSantis. Hope this catches on. That would be, well, it wouldn't stop him from being president, apparently, but it could certainly slow him down. Love to hear from you always. 800-920-1580 is KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
It's Black Music Appreciation Month, one of my favorite months of the year. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you in part by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. What's up, SoCal? Here are a few Black Music Month events to help you celebrate. First stop, throughout June, Disneyland is honoring the history of Black music with bands performing hits by Black artists from various decades. Next, catch the screening of Heart and Soul, a love story at the Grammy Museum, June 8th in the museum's theater. And on Juneteenth, that's right, June 17th, join Mayor Karen Bass and Councilwoman Heather Hutt on Jefferson Boulevard for the naming and ribbon cutting ceremony of the New Orleans Corridor, followed by a second line parade all the way to the main stage in front of Harold and Bells for a concert celebrating Black music with Terrace Martin and Friends, Irvin Mayfield, 1500 or nothing, and more. Visit NOLA, the number 2, LAtickets.org. NOLA, the number 2, LAtickets.org. Fun fact, President Jimmy Carter established June as Black Music Month in 1979. Here's to 44 years.
Hey LA, keep your utility bills low this summer while making your home the cool place to be. LADWP can help you save hundreds with air conditioner and thermostat rebates, plus free energy efficient home upgrades and simple tips to help you beat the heat and save money. Visit ladwp.com/cool-LA.
Have you faced discrimination in Los Angeles? The City of LA Civil Rights Department can help. They investigate private sector discrimination in LA City in commerce, education, employment, and housing. If you're facing discrimination, submit a complaint online for free at laisforeveryone.com. That's laisforeveryone.com or call 213-978-1845.
If you're a business owner or lead a nonprofit that has between 26 and 49 employees and you paid COVID sick leave in 2021 or 22, you may qualify for reimbursement through a state grant program administered by the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. Learn more at covidpaidsick.com.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
So the guy's name is Sheriff Javier Salazar. He just completed this investigation into the criminal activity of the governor of Florida in luring people out of the state. Apparently, they made false promises. We've heard about that. Well, apparently these are considered misdemeanors if the person is over 18, unlawful restraint. But if they're younger than 18, then they're felonies. And 5 of those people that were lured to Florida were kids. So those are felony charges. Now he's trying to convince the prosecutors to bring charges. But one thing that I thought was interesting, the Sheriff Salazar decided to issue special certifications to all of those refugees who were flown to Martha's Vineyard, declaring them official victims of a crime, which actually makes them eligible for a special visa where they could stay in the United States because they're considered helpful to law enforcement. Never heard of such a visa, but apparently there is one. And now those 50 refugees will actually have that because Ron DeSantis apparently messed with the wrong sheriff. We'll see whether prosecutors follow through. It's a long shot, but hey, love to see that happen. The city of New York is suing Kia and Hyundai, 2 different car companies. And I think it's interesting. I wonder, this to me could unleash a whole thing. People were getting on LA Councilwoman Rahman for saying that car companies should make it harder to steal the catalytic converters. They were trying to make it seem like she was being unfair. But I don't see that as unreasonable. Why can't you put some kind of little metal grill or grid or attach the thing in a way that makes it harder to steal? I know so many people who have had their catalytic converters stolen. Well, the city of New York says that Kias and Hyundais are too easy to steal, and that those companies are partly responsible for a huge rise in auto theft in the city. They're accusing the companies of enabling a spiraling epidemic of car thefts. These 2 South Korean automakers saw their stocks slide considerably on the news that they were being sued by New York. New York says, look, you got to install devices to keep your cars from getting stolen. And once again, social media plays a role because there was a challenge asking teenagers to steal Kias and Hyundais off the street. Apparently, that challenge was taken up by people, which actually showed you how to steal them. And the thefts of those, Chicago saw an 800% rise in the thefts of these cars. LA saw an 85% rise. But can you hold a car maker, can you hold a manufacturer of an item accountable, legally liable, if a defect in their product or an omission in their product is causing social harm? It's a really interesting question. I mean, the tobacco companies certainly have been held liable for the social harm they've caused. I know Newsom and others are talking about going after gun manufacturers. That's still, on the table. But why not car manufacturers? You can tell I live in LA because catalytic converters are just gone, and there goes your car. And I can't tell you how many people I know this has happened to. And then there's a waiting list for months. You might not get a catalytic converter for 6 months if you have a hybrid, because apparently they're harder to get. Interesting. I'm going to be watching this. I think it would be a massive wake-up call to car manufacturers and others if they could be held legally liable for failing to protect the consumer from social harm, like getting your car stolen. 800-920-1580, that is the number to call. Pete Davidson might want to join my organization after he goes toe-to-toe with PETA. Look at that and more. When we come forward, Cop City is on the table too. KBLA, Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The Atlanta City Council proved yesterday that they don't give a rodents behind about public opinion or the safety of black people in Georgia. In Atlanta, specifically, the Atlanta Council voted overwhelmingly to approve $31 million in funding for the construction of Cop City. It's a $90 million total complex for police and fire training in the middle of beautiful forest land that should be protected on the strength of the environmental piece. But nope. And it's adjacent to majority black area in Atlanta, which is a majority black city, so that it will be conveniently located to harass the community there. They're also going to be working on training on militarized weapons, right, within this massive campus. There was a public comment going on for 16 hours, more than 300 people speaking. I know Black Lives Matter LA was there and others. And they're talking about all the reasons they do not want this massive cop base, militarized base, which is now called Cop City. They don't want it built. But the Atlanta City Council doesn't care what they want and what they don't want. They just approved $31 million to start this project. Its official name is the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. 11-4 this passed. So, obviously, just like in most times when you're dealing with policing and over-policing issues, it's the progressives on the council that step up. This is one of those things where you have, the city paying for some of it and their police foundation paying for some of it. And just like in Los Angeles, the police foundation is a murky organization where really rich people can give millions of dollars and not have their names revealed. If you think that you can give millions of dollars to a law enforcement agency and not have special privilege or special access, you don't know capitalism. And so what these police foundations do is they allow the wealthy to sway police policy that is much more likely to affect the poor. I hate that so much. Anyway, the project is moving forward. It's unclear if it will be able to be stopped, but I know activists are not anywhere near backing down. There's been a lot of arrests around Cop City. Some lawmakers, Democrats, have spoken out against it because they're not only arresting these folks, they're throwing the book at them in terms of all kinds of criminal charges and really unleashing this draconian anti-protest movement on the part of law enforcement to try to shut down this opposition. But it's BLM folks, it's environmentalists, it's youth, it's a huge coalition of people, and I do not see this group just backing down. Actor, comedian Pete Davidson went off on PETA because they want to get all in his business. He bought a pet because his mama's dog died. The mama was grieving. He wanted to get her the same kind of dog, and they put him on blast talking about he should have bought a rescue. Stay out of my personal decisions. Now he went off on them, called them, and that's gone viral. But y'all know I've been looking to start an organization called People for the Ethical Treatment of People for years now. Maybe Mr. Davidson wants to help me. PETA seems to give zero F's about people, especially black people, but they'll kill you over a dog. News, traffic, and sports, and then we're talking self-care and overcoming trauma. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Michigan, Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Winstrom continues to defend his proposal to implement drones and held a community meeting on the issue last night. People continue to criticize the idea, citing worries over privacy rights and policies that criminalize black and brown people.
I'm just not sure how you can use drones at all and not violate people's privacy rights if you can see into people's backyards from like 20, 30 feet up.
Winstrom says they would only use them for mission-based events like protest and search and rescues. 17 U.S. states are issuing air quality alerts because of thick smoke from Canadian wildfires. States in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and as far away as Kentucky and Tennessee are reporting dense smoke. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. CalHope can help. Access CalHope's free and secure mental health resources. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
There's been some chatter the past few days that the Miami Heat will have Tyler Hero for Game 3 tonight in the NBA Finals. The Heat confirmed that Hero will not play tonight against the Denver Nuggets. Hero, the Heat's number 3 scorer, is still recovering from surgery to repair 2 broken bones in his right hand. He was injured in the first round in April against Milwaukee. The Heat made it to the finals without Hero. They can afford to wait a little while longer to bring him back. Game 3 tonight in Miami at 5:30 on ABC. Cincinnati gets 3 in the bottom of the 9th for a comeback win against the Dodgers. Buffalo Bills defensive back DeMar Hamlin practiced with the team on Tuesday in off-season workouts. First full practice for Hamlin since his cardiac arrest on January 2nd in a Monday night game. No debate, info you need.